Hi everyone, I hope you're all doing well. So, what is the one thing that makes Jesus angry? What is the thing that made him angry when he was on earth? Now, that would be during the time when people were turning the temple, a place of worship, into a marketplace. So, he was really mad at that time that it says he turned the tables and chairs over, and that's literally. Okay, so in here we can see that Jesus values respect most of all. First and foremost, respect for God, but respect just in general. Now, if we look at the Ten Commandments as Christians and our brothers and sisters who are practicing Judaism are also aware of, we would see that actually the underlying theme of the commandments has a lot to do with respect. Okay? Um, One commandment says, respect or honor your mother and your father. Another would be basically, respect and reverence for God. And there's, thou shalt not kill. That's respect for life. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not covet another person's wife or husband. That's respect for another person's relationship. Thou shalt not covet another person's possessions. Thou shalt not steal. No, that would be respect for the belongings of another person. So basically, it's all about respect, and it's it's one of the most important things in the world, I guess. So there. Now at this point, I would just like to share with you some experiences that I've had. And well, the first one would be the experience that my son had when it comes to respect, now regardless of beliefs or religion. Okay, so I mentioned in my previous video that my son's best friend in school happens to be Muslim, and they have a very good relationship. um they respect each other. They're both excelling in school, and so there was this one time when the teacher was handing out test examination papers during their fourth grading exam, I think. So there. And so it has so happened that there was one copy lacking. And so he was wondering which two students would be sharing the examination paper. And so my son's best friend just raised his hand, told the teacher, "Sir, why don't we just share the both of them? Because we're definitely not cheating." And that's very true. So they don't cheat. They have both a sense of integrity, and they work really well together. They help each other out when they find the other person have a difficulty in one thing or in another thing. Okay, so so my son's best friend, as I said also in the previous video, is like a nephew to me also. Sometimes he tells me things, he opens up. So there. um the second story that I would like to share with you has something to do with my mom's best friend's family. Back when I was a teenager, um, my mom, who was then working as a teacher in the public school, had one of her closest friends being Muslim also. And so her entire family was also Muslim. And then they were renting out a small place beside the school. Okay, so they were not necessarily residents of our place, of our city there. And then what happened was, it was around during that time that our family from the father's side decided to have our first reunion. But this was to take place in the far end of the country. And our problem was it was going to take place during the holidays. And so we would be out of the house for an entire week, or more than a week actually. there. And so we were worrying as to how we would leave the place, leave our house. It wasn't just easy to up and leave. And so what ended up happening was my mom's friend's family, the Muslim family, stayed in our place. They volunteered to take care of our house. And so they would go back and forth their place and ours. And sometimes they would sleep at home and feed the dog too. So there, and they did a very good job. And we were really very thankful to them. Now, what we were not expecting them to do was lighting the electric candle at the altar every night, because that's something that we used to do, that we would do actually as a family. We would light the candle at the altar, and then that would be during the evenings, and then we'd turn it off before bed. So there, so we were really surprised when they said, when we communicated with them, we were vacationing already, when they said that they actually were turning it on and off. So it was really very touching, on their part, touching for us, that on their part they did that for us, considering it's not their practice, but for reverence or respect to our God and to our faith. So they did that for us, and for love of us also. So there, so it's a very inspiring gesture, and that is something that we still remember them by up to this time. So there. Now the last story that I have for you in here is one that took place right after the time that I graduated from college. So around that time, I was blessed to have been chosen as one of the delegates to the ASEAN Friendship Programs, where there were 25 delegates from our country, and the program was to take place in Japan for an entire month. And so I was really lucky. I was able to go there. And so when we were there, we got the chance to experience the Japanese culture. We had the chance to interact with our counterparts, delegates also from Japan. And we visited different institutions, orphanages, home for the aged, and other companies also. So it was a once in a lifetime experience for me. It's the first time and the only time that I left the country. So there, and it was really spectacular. It was very memorable for me. Now, one part of the program is what is called the homestay. Now, in the homestay, each of us delegates was to be assigned to a Japanese family and experience staying with them for three days. And so my Japanese family consisted of a mom, a dad, a grandmother, two daughters who were staying at home, and there was also a daughter who was abroad. So I didn't get to meet her. But then, among all the members of the family, only one could speak English, and she spoke English fluently because my foster sister actually had been working as an interpreter, and so she was very fluent. So there, but the times when I was left alone with the other members of the family, it's really that's really when I felt the frustration of language barrier. Well, because before there were no cell phones, so there were no translation apps and the like, and even just making gestures, communicating with them, it was so frustrating that I couldn't even say thank you or show how I appreciated what they did, the little things they did. So there. Now, what stands out among others, actually, what stands out as the most significant, memorable, touching experiences for me when it comes to them is that the third day that I was with them, so that was my last day, it fell on a Sunday. And so I asked them if they knew of any Catholic churches so that I could hear Mass. So they found one, and then come Sunday, I was planning to tell them to ask them to just drop me off in church and just fetch me after an hour. To my surprise, they came with me, and I was sort of shocked that they had every intention of staying with me during the Mass, considering that none of them spoke English except for the translator, um, the interpreter. And even then, during the Mass, she made sure that she did not do any interpreting so as to preserve the solemnity of the Mass. And so I was really overwhelmed. At the same time, I was touched. I was filled with different sorts of emotions. So, um, whenever we would stand, they would stand. When we would sit, they would sit. When we would kneel, they would kneel. I don't I don't even know if they kneel actually. Um, they're practicing their religion, which was generally Shintoism, Buddhism. So there, well, that's where I'm ignorant actually about the kneeling, but forgive me. And so there, and then so well, during the Our Father, we would hold hands. They would hold hands with us there. So they were just going through the whole hour, not understanding a single word, but they didn't know that every second that they were there, that they were there with me, was I was just overflowing with gratitude and appreciation, and I was just overflowing with emotion because I felt really that with the 3 days that I had with them, they were treating me really like family. And that was very touching, that was very moving. And it was one of the most meaningful experiences that I ever had in my entire life during Mass. So there. So so this is how I have been, you know, my family actually has been living life with other people, like regardless of all our differences. So I just wanted to share all of these with you. So there, to end, we all know that love is the most powerful thing on earth. But let me ask you this: love without respect, can you really say it's love? Something to think about, perhaps. So there. So I guess this is just where I end. Until next time, this is just me, Alvie, saying find your strength, find your peace, respect each other, and stay with God, whatever you conceive Him to be. He loves you so much. Take care. Bye.